Bonjour, everyone. Hello. That means hello in French. Bonjour. You've caught me on such a wonderful day. Today is all about France, specifically Paris. I've got my beret on, the essence of fancy and classiness, and I've got a little coffee. So I'm going to have a sip, and today is all about France. So we are going to draw on our canvas today the Eiffel Tower. It's such a wonderful structure that is featured in the center of Paris, France. And that is what we are going to draw. We're going to explore the entire culture of French people and French cuisine and French architecture. It's just a very special day. So I invite you all to grab your canvas, grab your paints, grab your coffee, and let's get started. I found the most wonderful music. It is called French music. Now, I have never personally seen the Eiffel Tower, and I have no idea what color it is, but I did do a little Google search because Google is such a wonderful resource when you don't know what you are painting. So I recommend you always go on Google. So we've got our canvas today, and it is a vertical canvas. So we're gonna draw the structure upwards. And from what I know, it's just a very simple dome, and then we go straight up, and then there's just some layers. So we're gonna give it a go and see what happens. So I'm gonna start using my paintbrush today. And I'm using the paintbrush because I want to create a very Parisian sort of essence to my painting. I did a little Google search on just French paintings. Turns out there's quite a library. So we're going to give it a go today. And I'm going to imagine that there's a little bit of gray and then also that lovely bronze color. I have a wonderful sort of iridescent bronze, and you know how much I love the word iridescence. So we're going to give this just a little bit of a go today and see what happens. So I'm going to just start by drawing upwards. And there we have one line. So far, so good. I hope everyone is having a wonderful Friday. I've decided to call it French Friday. I've already had lots of sugary, delicious baked goods that I got from my local boulangerie. That is French for bakery. It just rhymes with laundry, laundry. So here we go. We're gonna draw this other line up. Now I'm gonna be very, very careful and just go all the way up. And we're running in a little bit, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do this, and I think that did it. There we go. And I'm just gonna draw a little bit of a point at the top. There we go. So this is our basic structure of the Eiffel Tower, which is of course in the middle of Paris in France. And for those of you who don't know, there are other cities also named Paris. Now, from what I recall, there's a little bit of a line here. So we're gonna draw that line upwards. And then there's a little bit of like an arch. So I'm just gonna kind of make this up as I go. And there's our little arch at the bottom. So now we have our structure for the Eiffel Tower. It's such a fun culture. In France, they drink wine all day long, which, as you know, Jean loves her wine. So now, from what I recall, there's a little bit of upward motion here. There we go. We're just gonna draw this upwards. And there are levels. So here's one level. And then we continue to draw upwards. And then there's another level. Oh, I love this music. I have never heard French music before. It's just exquisite. There we go. So now we've got our layers, and that is our Eiffel Tower. So that's just as simple as it is. Now, what I did see, and what we're going to do is we're going to clear up some of these lines. What I did see on the Google is that it's a very sort of metallic structure. There we go. So we're just going to kind of clean up these lines now that we have our outline. Here we go. And I'm just going to make this very, very clean, and then we will color it in. But one thing we're going to want to do as well is draw what it is there are little beams sort of all over the Eiffel Tower. Now, I've never been to France. I'm not quite sure where it is. Probably somewhere in South America, but I don't know. Who knows? I don't think anyone really ever knows. So we've got one layer there, and then we've got our other layer here. There we go. I'm just going to clean up these lines. This is really just based off of 1 or 2 photos I saw, so this might not be quite exact, but what is kind of fun about the Eiffel Tower is it can be a very abstract structure. You don't have to follow completely. You make it whatever you want it to be. Now, additionally, I'm not quite sure what the beam structures look like, so we're just going to kind of draw up, just see what happens. Look at that. I'm just drawing some interesting sort of patterns to make it look a little bit like metal beams. And it's going very well. So we're just kind of drawing up, and then I'm going to let this dry and draw a little scenery around what I think is around the Eiffel Tower. I have no idea, but we're going to just play with a few things today and see what we think. So I've drawn this, and then this goes upwards. Look at that. Beautiful. So far, so good, everyone. I wonder what your Eiffel Towers look like at home. Perhaps you show me a picture. I get so many fans who send me their pictures, all the things that they're painting. It's just so much fun to see how wonderful everyone is at painting. Okay, so we're just finishing that off, and then one thing we're going to do at the top, I have an idea. We are going to draw the French flag. I have the most wonderful materials for this. So we are going to draw the French flag at the top. I think the French flag is going to be, oh, how about this blue color? Let's see how this looks. So we're drawing up the French flag, and then I think I'm going to draw it this way. Just a very simple sort of square-like structure. There's our flag. Look at that. Just a little flag there. And from what I remember, the flag has a blue stripe. I cannot remember exactly what the French flag, which stripes there are, but I believe there's blue and then white. And then, this is such a wonderful idea to use marker, and I encourage marker all the time. And then I think there's red right at the bottom here. So there's our little French flag. Look at that. And then there's white in the middle. That just tells us where the Eiffel Tower is. It's just a little French flag, just a little doodad. So there's our Eiffel Tower. We're going to let that sit for a moment, and let's explore the scenery around the Eiffel Tower. Now I'm assuming this is in some large, I don't know, park maybe? So what if we add a little bit of grass? So now I'm going to go ahead, maybe I'll take big old Jimmy. Where's Jimmy? There's Jimmy. Bonjour, Jimmy. I'm just loving the language of French. So many wonderful sayings like, oh, I don't know, croissant. Just a flaky pastry. Croissant. Another one, they call coffee there, it's pronounced caffee. It's C-A-F-F-E, caffee. Look at that. Now, I'm just using a couple of different greens. And what I'm going to do is just draw in, oh, maybe just a little bit of grass. But I'm using a fun little texture because we've used already so much linear, just lines and things on the actual Eiffel Tower. So now I'm just going to create, I don't know, maybe just a little bit of texture at the bottom just to make it extra fun. France is a city of fun people, from what I've read. There we go. I'm just going to draw a little bit of grass, and certainly there are some trees around the Eiffel Tower. Most definitely. I tell you what, I bet you can find some sort of cafe or actually the restaurant is called the Café. It's a longer A. Very interesting sounds in French. A lot of the U, like an U sound in French. Imagine that. So many interesting sounds. Whoops, let's not run off the page. Okay. Let's not run off the page there. Get a little happy in France, aren't we? Alrighty. Make sure Jimmy's nice and patted down. And we're just, again, creating just a wonderful sort of texture of the grass. And maybe there will be people visiting the Eiffel Tower, who knows? From what I saw, you can go up into the Eiffel Tower, which I thought was imaginary. it's not. It's very real. And in fact, what we're going to do is take a little bit in here, and I just want to create that little ledge. There we go. And how about right here? We'll just go right up in there. And up here is where a restaurant is. Imagine, just imagine going to the top. So we have our Eiffel Tower, we have our grass. Now most certainly, and of course we have our little French flag at the top. Now of course, probably there are some trees. So why don't we get into that tree drawing? And I'm just using my little bronze, and a little bit of brown, and what the hey, how about a little bit of black? And let's make a tree, oh, right there. Look at that. Now I am stroking down. Now you can stroke up, it's completely up to you. There's a tree. Probably lots of trees around the Eiffel Tower. Maybe it's in a wooded forest, who knows? You get to put your Eiffel Tower wherever you want. Now again, I'm not sure what's in France. Are there forests? Who knows? Here's a tree. Oh, and maybe a big old tree right over here. I love when people write in and they say, oh, Jean, we just love your trees. We felt very moved, specifically by sometimes the girth. But we've added a little bit of girth as well because this is a very girthy structure, the Eiffel Tower. You know, I love a good amount of girth in my paintings, as I'm sure you do too. So this tree is going to be a little bit thicker. We're just going to draw that right up. There we go. And a little bit of, I don't know, something here. And then as soon as my Eiffel Tower dries, I am going to fill in the color just a little bit. Now again, I'm not totally sure of the color of the Eiffel Tower. We are just kind of improvising here, but I did see a wonderful photograph on Google. And I believe I saw one in a book somewhere. But you never know. Now I'm just finishing out my trees, everyone. There we go. Just getting some good trees right by the Eiffel Tower. Every wonderful tower ought to have a couple of trees nearby. Who knows? And we're just making sure those trees have a little bit of something that they can stand on. Not just the grass, but maybe just a little, I don't know. There's a little doodad here. Got some branches coming out. And again, I don't know exactly where Eiffel Tower is, but we're going to imagine it's somewhere in some kind of forest. There we go, we got some girth, and that tree branch is going right out there. Maybe another one up there, who knows? Just feeling so much fun in this sort of French way. So we're just going to explore that today. There's our big old tree. There we go. Now I'm going to go back to my Eiffel Tower, and we're going to start to color some things in. So I'm going to take big old Jimmy here. We're going to rid him of that green. So all I'm doing is tapping. There we go. And here we go. Now I'm going to find a little bit of that gray, and then I have, like as I say, this most wonderful sort of iridescent bronze. We're just going to go in and start to kind of paint in a little bit. But I'm going to go very lightly because I want to keep that pattern that I've drawn within the Eiffel Tower. I just love it. Now, if you've ever explored the wine region in France, which I hear is very abundant, they've got some wonderful types of wines there. Some wonderful wines. In fact, that is where the champagne, remember a couple of weeks ago for a celebration we had some champagne for a birthday party, and that is in fact where it comes from, is in France. They also have wonderful varietals of the wine. Things like the pine nut. Can't leave out the pine nut. And my favorite is called a paille farcie, which is some kind of white wine. Who knows? So now I'm just going to go back and I'm going to add back a little bit of that texture just to grab that bronze. And I'm using a little bit of this just sort of dark black, oh, and a little bit more of this bronze. And we're just going to paint away. And I'm creating what is in fact just a little bit of beaming. I love that word beaming because it can describe so many things. So we're just going to draw those little beams back. There we go. I don't know if you can hear behind me, but we have some wonderful French music in the background. Look at that. And just a little bit more of that black should do the trick. Just grabbing that beam. So easy to do. This beaming, it's just a sort of what they call a cross hatch. Cross hatching. I do not know why they call it that. It seems a little violent, but it's not. Here we go. And there we have our Eiffel Tower. Now our trees have gone ahead and dried, so I'm going to pull out big old Jimmy again. Go ahead. Get that green off, get that gray off. And now we're going to start to go back to green. And we're going to add, how about a little bit of trees? Even though I love trees so very much. I love that people have been so touched by my trees. It just means absolutely the world to me. There we go. Oh yes, just a little tree there. Kind of a skinny guy there, but that's okay. Wonderful. And now we're going to add a little bit of that green over here. And I'm making sure that my brush isn't too terribly moist because we don't want too much moisture on that brush. Otherwise, it's going to run. Look at how well that's going. Just a little tree. And then we're going to make this guy a little bit bigger. There we go. Oh, I just love the leaves and the greens. It looks so nice with the beaming. I did not plan for that, and I never ever know what's going to come out sometimes. Whenever I start these paintings, it's just kind of like, I don't know, eating a delicious pastry and seeing what comes out the other end. You never know. You never know. Here we go, just a couple little rascal branches over here. And this is just so easy to do. There we go. And I'm just kind of marrying these leaves together. Because what the heck? Here we go. And I'm thinking, maybe, just maybe, there's a bird or two in here somewhere. Here we go, look at that. Okay, so we've got our trees and we have our Eiffel Tower, which is just looking so wonderful. Now, I am thinking perhaps it's time, to add maybe a little bit of background. So why don't we grab our little brush here? And I might just draw, maybe some kind of hillside in the background. Why not? Just using a little imagination to see what's in the background of the Eiffel Tower. And maybe there's just a little hillside back there. Who knows? If you've ever been to Paris, which I have not, you know, Paris is the city of love and of dreams, according to the Wikipedia page. So I'm going to grab big old Jimmy again. I'm just going to add a little bit more of that texture, but as opposed to this little dotted texture, instead what we're going to do is give it a little stroke. Just stroke away. Let's see what happens. Oh yes. Just a nice little hillside. And maybe there's people back there. Maybe a nice picnic, or maybe just throwing a ball and catching it. Who knows? Little rascals back there. And I am drawing around the Eiffel Tower because I want to make sure I maintain the integrity of the structure. There we go. And let's draw a little bit back here. Look at that. And I'm using both sides of the brush. You want to make sure you enjoy both sides of your brush, because both sides has just a tasty amount of color. Look at all that color. It's just wonderful. There we go. So there's our Eiffel Tower with our trees. And now I'm thinking I want to add, and we haven't done this in a while, but we're going to come back to it, some clouds. From what I've read, Paris can be very sunny, but also very cloudy, which is why they wear these berets, right, to protect themselves from the clouds. So I've got a little bit of gray, and I'm going to grab a little bit of white, but mostly gray. And I think I'm actually going to also use, let's say a little bit of this light blue. And we're just going to make sure that big old Jimmy there is not quite, look at that, not quite as moist for this little cloud. It's kind of similar to what we just did down here, but we're just drawing it in the sky. Here's one cloud. Very puffy. Oh, I love this music. Makes me want to do a little of that. Sometimes you listen to music and it just takes over your body and also your painting. That's why I just love listening to music when I paint. You just never know. How about a cloud over here? There we go. Look at that. Oh. Now this song appears to be in English. It's possible that they speak some English in France. Who knows? Just drawing some puffy old clouds. Look at that. It's just coming along so wonderfully. Oh, yes. So we've got a little cloud coverage, we've got our wonderful Eiffel Tower, and now I think finally, the final thing we're going to do is just fill in a little bit of sky. So simple though, we're just going to take a little bit of blue, a little bit of this white, and now let's just sweep right across. Right across. It's kind of a gray day. There we go. I wonder what the Eiffel Tower must look like in real life. How tall might it be? I don't know. A few feet, many feet, who knows? Just going right across. There it is. It's always fun to explore different countries and different cultures. In France, they do that a lot. And just a little bit more of that blue, and I'm just doing a sweep here. As I say, a little bit of a gray day in France. Maybe it's winter time, who knows? Just getting a little bit of that gray in the middle here, right between the legs of the tower. Just get right in there and add a little color. Why not? And now over here. It's just a very simple sweeping motion, and you can really just make your sky whatever color you want. Purple, black, who knows? And I've got those clouds there, and I'm going to add a little bit more definition. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little guy, and I'll show you how to do this. It's the easiest technique in the world. You just take a little bit darker paint, just a little bit darker, a little bit of that gray. And very simple, I'm just outlining some of the parts of that cloud, which is a technique that I made up just now. When in France. Who knows? All right, we're just getting to the end of our painting. The Eiffel Tower here, we're just filling in some of those clouds, drawing in a little bit of those edges, a little bit of that. Oh, that's wonderful. Look at that. And one final thing to do as well, because our trees have dried just a little bit, so I'm going to go back, and I'm just going to add a little bit more outline. Look at those trees. Oopsie. Getting a little tree happy here. Just a little tree happy. Let's get Jimmy a little bit drier. Oh, that Jimmy loves to absorb the moisture, doesn't he? All right, grabbing this. I'm just going to keep kind of going. Look at that. All the way through. And we're just going right up here. And we're just finishing off. It's just wonderful. Now I'm just going to step back here for a moment. Just take one final look here and see if there's anything. Sometimes it's good just to step back. Take a moment. See if there's anything else you might desire in your paintings. And I'm thinking perhaps not. So why don't we zoom on in and take a closer look at this wonderful Eiffel Tower that we've drawn. Here in the center of Paris, land of love and possibly trees. Now you'll notice a little bit closer up that beaming that I talked about. It's such an easy technique. And we've got our little French flag there. Look at that. How about a macaroon? That's what I would like to do or eat, maybe underneath the Eiffel Tower. The delicious cup of Chino or perhaps a cafe. I don't know. I've got my cafe right here. And I hope that you go and you look around the internet and see if you can find some photos of Paris. It's a wonderfully magical city, just wonderful sights to see. Number one being the Eiffel Tower. It was such a pleasure to paint today, and I hope that you all had such a good time painting at home as well. I am Jean Moss. Join me again for another wonderful episode in the coming weeks. Weekdays here live on Instagram. Go and find some wonderful structure to paint for yourself. Have a wonderful weekend.